Hi, my name is Ornella Fieres. I'm a time-based media artist from Germany. I am currently living and working in Berlin. This is my studio in Friedrichshain in the former East sector and in a Soviet-style building, which is really interesting. And I'm originally from Frankfurt, Germany. I have lived in various places in the world, also in New York for quite a while. And my main interest is the hidden aspect or the dark and occult aspects of the digital technology. And to explore this realm, I'm creating different methods that it can be really simple or really complex, and I work with video, photography and sound to investigate this area. And yes, so this is where I am right now. I'm also doing my PhD in media science, and where I'm going next, I don't know, I will see. I come to my studio a few days a week. I usually bike here, which is quite nice, and then I start kind of early in the morning. And then I work on my current series. So the process before that is usually that I have an idea in my head and that is simmering in the back of my head while I do other things, like daily things. And at some point the idea is just finished, and then I come to my studio and sit down on my desk and start my new method, and usually it works out quite quickly because I have thought about it for such a long time anyway. And yeah, currently I'm working on my algorithm series that is called Inverse Fourier, and I am now doing something with an artificial intelligence. And I'm feeding this artificial intelligence or this neural network with old letters from the GDR, or the former GDR. And yes, so I work with found material, with found photos, with found videos and found letters. And the majority of those comes from the turn of the century, between like the 19th and 20th century. So a time that was coined by this fascination for technology or new technologies, like telegraphs, for example, or photography. And people had this occult relationship with this technology. So this is the time frame where I search for my found footage. And in the end, I process this footage with very different methods. They can be really simple or really complex. And I have very different ways on approaching this. But for me, the main thought is to look behind the hidden aspects or in the dark aspects of the digital technologies. My new work for Ornella is part of the series Inverse Fourier, where I work with a compression algorithm and again with found footage. So what I do is I scan a found image and process it with an algorithm. It compresses the information of that image, and what I do next is I take out even more information out of this data set and then give it back to the program to read it, and it tries to make an image, but there's not enough information. So the outcomes are always quite different because I don't know what I'm deleting. The picture becomes really blurry, or it has got these weird shadows and these weird auras. And what fascinates me is this hidden aspect of the computer doing parts of the image for me, and that I don't know what the outcome is. So the source for the new image is a picture from 1926 from a sanatorium in Berlin-Lichtenrade. It was a lung disease sanatorium, a tuberculosis sanatorium, and I thought that was, in a sad way, quite timely. And I also chose these images. This is the collection. I chose these images because they have these really eerie kind of aspect. They are really weird. I don't know if the women that are shown are patients or if they're nurses. And the arrangements are just really, really interesting to me. This is why I took them, and this is actually the original image. It's secretive how I do my techniques, but I can talk a little bit more about it if I show you the predecessor series, which is just called Fourier Transform. Wait a second. So this is one of the works here. You can see an old image and a star-shaped image. Both are actually showing the same thing. This is just how we understand it, and this is how the computer understands it. This is actually the Fourier transform. So what I did is I transformed this into this. These are several x and y axes showing the frequencies between light and dark in this image. So they are pointing at the same moment, but this is understandable for us and this is understandable for the computer. And this is the Fourier series. It is the first thing that I did, and what I later on did is I work with just this information, and I take out more information and then I reverse it back, and this is how the inverse series came to existence. And the very blurry images you can also see behind me here, and that are part of the new series and the new image for Ornella. There are different ways to find these images. I usually buy them on flea markets or on inheritance sales, but I also buy them in big bulks on the internet. And I usually get surprised by these boxes that I buy there and what they contain. I can show you some. For example, we have these here. I don't know if they are sharp, but or another one that has a few things written on the back. And I collect all these images from different eras. And there are so many in different sizes and in different papers and all kind of that. And I go through them and select them and select them. And from these hundreds and hundreds of images, only a few remain. And these are the ones that stick with me the most. For some reason that I cannot properly explain, it's more an intuitive way that I want to show this image because it has got something, I said before, eerie. I think that is a good word to describe it. It has got something weird about it that I would like to work with and that I would like to show. I have developed that series at my studio residency at New Lab in 2017, which was really nice because there were a few people that could help me with the concept of that algorithm to understand a little bit of it, because of course I cannot understand the whole algorithm or what it actually does, because I am not a mathematician or a coder. So I usually work with these things that I can only grasp to a certain extent, because I like the wonder of it that I feel while I use it. So I have used it now for 3 years, and after the Fourier series there came the inverse Fourier series, which you see parts here, and it got me more into the automatisms of the computer or the seemingly autonomy that a software or an algorithm has. And that is why I started to work with the artificial intelligence, because of course this is even a step further, because it can learn from itself. It can learn from the things you feed it with, but then it evolves from that. And that is now the next step that I'm working with, and that all started, I think, when I was 2017 at New Lab. Yeah, for me, all these aspects belong together because when I studied, the theoretical part of art was a big part of our university. So working conceptually and working theoretically was always a part of my work. So I think all that belongs together, especially now that I'm doing my PhD in media science, where I focus on the occult digital that I was talking about before. And I like to think that photography is a big part of this, because it is this technique that is 50 years old or a little bit older, where you could imprint a person on a piece of paper, and I think that still has some kind of magic in it, even now in the digital age, where these tiny little hidden processes happen in the camera. So yeah, I like to think of that all is one, that I'm combining all these things in my practice. You see, I can still work in my studio, which is really nice. The lockdown was never really that intense in Germany, so now it is almost like normal again. But before that, I could basically do whatever I did. But so I was just cycling to my studio or worked from home a little bit. So nothing actually really changed, except for, of course, a constant worry about the world, but that is also normal for me. So is everything the same, just the city got more calm, or the world got more calm, and I think that was, in all its sadness, a really nice part of this pandemic, that everything got a little bit more quiet. And I could focus a little bit more on my work. That was a plus, because I didn't have as much, as many appointments or anything. But apart from that, I just went to my studio and worked here. So we can actually travel at the moment within Germany. That's why I was in Frankfurt and in Brandenburg. And I think I want to go with my partner to the Baltic Sea, which is really beautiful. And after that, sometime to New York. That would be my next big journey, and hopefully that will happen sometime soon. That's a tough question. I would say, I mean, selling is nice, but I would say that I would make an AI work that is so lasting that people will remember it for a long, long time, even if I don't earn anything from it. It's a hard decision, though. That is a pretty hard one. I have no proper answer for this, except for I like to think that time goes in cycles and everything kind of returns again, and maybe for the next time something like this returns, we have learned and evolved and made it a little bit better. If you think about the picture from the sanatorium, that was 1926, where there was a tuberculosis was killing a lot of people, and it was terrible for a lot of people. And I think if from then we have learned so much, and we will probably do for the next time something like this will come around, I guess. I think as it it's exhausting to be human. I think it's even more exhausting to be an AI because you always get fed with a lot of information that you have to process. And of course we also get information, but we blur it out after a while. I think also as an AI, your life is probably kind of endless, and that wouldn't be that great. That sounds really dire. I think I would choose to be human.